There's walls
I
around.
know. Everyone look good?
I don't know, where's our mirrors?
Okay, we're all set.
We're on the air.
All right. I'd like to call a meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Monday, August 18th to order. Madam Clerk, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing, please be advised that the Governor, Deval Patrick, has ordered that the United States flag and the Commonwealth flag be lowered to half-staff at all state and federal buildings, sunrise until sunset on Friday, August 15th, 2014, in honor of Private Jose Enrique Mendez Lascelles, United States Army of Dorchester, who died August 5th, 2014. Thank you. Mr. Town Administrator, the mail, please.
Mr. Chairman, just a few items to include in the mail. One is that we received approval of free cash certification from the Department of Revenue. And this is the earliest, I think, that Littleton has ever received this approval. Were we first?
We were first.
We were the first of any of the 351 cities and towns this year.
That's where we like to be.
So, and there is free cash of $5.8 million for the general fund, $128,000 for the water enterprise fund, and just further the timing and the amounts just further signals of the good shape that the town's in financially with our financial team. So congratulations to Bonnie and her team. We will not be spending that all in one place, I'm sure, so,
Thanks, Bonnie.
if at all. So that's one. Another thing that I am quite pleased to mention at this meeting, and it's that the MBTA will very shortly be issuing a press release to officially announce that the what we can already observe, and that is that the schedule for the Littleton MBTA commuter rail station, it has been enhanced to the level that we have long desired. And it's a first step in improvements made possible through the Fitchburg line improvements. But for years, for all 7 years that I've been in Littleton, I've been saying that my stump speech has been that the first reverse commute of the day arrives in Littleton at 9:40, which means you're going to be late if you have to be to work by 9. Well, the new schedule that the MBTA published quite recently, and they're in the process of getting the word out on, as the first train of the day arriving in Littleton at 8:37 a.m., and that's a tremendous breakthrough. Quite recently, we were told we weren't going to get that improvement until 18 months from now, but they've moved it up. We're delighted to see it. What's more, Littleton now has what we would call South Acton's schedule, that there were 4 trips a day and in each direction that would come out to or from Boston, and they'd make it as far as South Acton and never make it to Littleton. They now come all the way to Littleton. All the trips that are coming to or from North Station make it all the way out to Littleton, and that has tremendous impact on the community, on our region, on the businesses, and we're very much looking forward to working with the T, with our regional transit authorities, with our businesses, with our neighboring communities in Crosstown Connect to take advantage of this schedule. So it's I got a note back. I sent thanks to the MBTA General Manager, and I got a nice note back from Dr. Beverly Scott today saying that they're working on the full press release, but that they're happy to be able to institute this service level, and we're very happy that they've done that. So that's great news. What I also wanted to do, and to take some time to do, is give the floor to our chief of police, just for a quick update. I know you're here, and just before we get on to other things, but there's a story that, as far as I can see, at one point went national because of the AP coverage.
Of all the stories to go national.
So, but I have to say, I saw, I thought the press coverage was very fair and balanced, so,
Did watch a Fox.
Well, it all
And-
depends, not if you're the bull.
well, that's true. But I really, I want to commend the
fair
chief. I thought that it was great the way that information was getting out. I know that there was a lot of attention by the Boston media. I saw the chief on, I think it was Channel 7 last night, and so I appreciate his efforts, but just if you could just give a brief update on this story of interest.
About 10 minutes to 3 yesterday, we got a call to go down to Flame the Farmers live animal market for a 73-year-old male who had been attacked by a bull. As you saw by the pictures, it was a rather large animal that actually knocked him to the ground, pinned him, tried to gore him, and bang him up pretty good, had a broken nose, probably some broken ribs and abrasion scrapes. The animal was then, still running around the area. We got dispatched down along with the fire, went down to the scene. Patrolman Casey called me from the scene, told me what was going on, said, the bull was still out in the area and acting aggressively, and, asked for permission if needed, if there was a threat to safety down there to put the animal down. I said absolutely. If the bull, threatens anyone at the scene or is a threat to the neighborhood. And at some point later, the bull came back around the building, did the exact same movements that it did when it ran over the 73-year-old gentleman, and unfortunately, Patrolman Casey was forced to, at that point, take action and put the bull down at that point. So he did that. Luckily, the bull stayed in that area, didn't get over into the Matawanaki area on a nice day like that. It was a very aggressive animal and unfortunate circumstance, but in the end, everybody was okay. So my compliments to Patrolman Casey, the way he handled it, and,
And just for clarification, 2 shots?
well, one shot put it completely down. He wanted to make sure, I guess, was the thing.
Just for clarification purposes.
We had to ask that question?
Thanks for
Thanks, Chief.
handling that.
And Fox 25 showed up on my doorstep at home,
Was that what that was?
Oh my goodness.
which I was not too happy about.
So you're all set with Neil?
Yes, that's it, thank you.
Okay, next item, public input. Anybody? Seeing none, I will go to any input from members. I'll start with Mr. Rivella.
No, sir.
Anything? Scott?
I have nothing.
Nothing for me?
Okay, I have a couple things. First thing, I left the house tonight, and I just want to say happy birthday to my daughter Kim, whose birthday's, they were having a celebration when I left, and also want to mention my granddaughter's there. She wanted to make sure I said happy birthday to Kenzie, too, so.
Are they watching,
They're watching this part. They'll shut it off right now. They're all set now. And 300th celebrations coming up. What's happening on Wednesday, there's a peach social at the Historical Society. Thursday is the last third Thursday of this year. And I want to hold this up. Hopefully the camera can get it. One of the things being raffled off is the 250th anniversary plate, obviously from 50 years ago. This will be auctioned off at the booth we have. As a matter of fact, Mr. Carr won the raffle last month. There's a limited number of these left, and they're very nice. And I was read before the meeting, and someone can clarify if this is true or not. In the back, it actually says, December 3rd, 1715, resolved, the ownership of a grant made November 2nd, 1714, is corrected and is ordered that the name of the township be henceforth called Littleton. So according to the back of the plate, it was actually 1715 when the name was actually put in. And
Thank
there you
you.
go. One of those will be auctioned off, will be raffled off.
You should tell us the backstory behind this. Where did you get these?
That came from Warren Kimball, who father had one of the large barns or farms off Goldsmith Street. He lives up in New Hampshire, and going through his his present bond come across a box of old plates and old booklets that date back to the 250th anniversary. Also, by the time we meet again, we will have had one of our biggest days in the 300th celebration, which is September 6th. We have the parade that starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. Chief King is one of the members of the committee that we're on for the parade committee. We've been working on this, 3.5 years? And as of our last meeting, and we meet once a week now, just on the parade to get everything going, we're up to 115 units in the parade, 41 of which are some kind of band or a marching unit that plays some kind of instruments. And we have the clowns, we have the Oscar Mayer Wiener Wagon coming, we have something from Wachusett Beer that's going to be in there, so that parade should be something to be remembered. The parade route will be from St. Anne's Church at 10 o'clock up to IBM will end. That same day, starting at 3 o'clock, the celebration goes on at the Neshoba Ski area. We'll have different events going on. There's actually a midway that's there. We have 2 bands that are playing, in both local Littleton bands, Loose Connection, and I forgot the name of the band, I'll get myself in trouble. And then right before the fireworks, which will be going off, the Concord band will be playing for about an hour and 15 minutes. Somewhere around 7:15 to 7:30, we will have the fireworks start, or maybe that's later. And for the first time, the fireworks will be taking place from on top of a hill. They get the okay, so our fireworks will be visible from almost any place in town, but obviously the closer you get, the better. And then they should be parking down there. There are plans being made, but not finalized yet, that if the crowd gets too big, that they might have shuttle buses going back and forth to take people to that festivity and back. So that's a big day. And the week after that, September 13th, we have our grand ball. I know a lot of people have bought costumes. I have mine all picked out. I have a top hat and cane and all set to go with tails. But I do encourage people, they have to know how many people are going, and still to this date, we have so many people on our committee, on different committees that haven't even bought their tickets, and they have to know ahead of time. So if you're watching, all you have to do is go to the website, which is littleton300.org, hit the parade button at the bottom of that page. All you have to fill out is that thing, and it'll tell you where to send your money into, and you'll get a commemorative ticket at the door. But you'll also get an email back confirming that they have the mail. So that's what's coming up in the near future. I think it's a bright part for Littleton. It should be a great celebration. So, moving on. Chief, it's your floor right now.
Front row. As you know, sit down, sit. Please. As you know, last week, the board gave me permission to fill Chief Kelly's slot, which was the 16th officer, and prior to that, it authorized the department to grow to 17. We had the ad out for filling the position. We ended up with 162 resumes altogether. Of those, we decided to interview 26 trained individuals for the slot. The first set of interviews was done by the sergeants and one of the patrol officers, Ashley Brooks. They brought the numbers down to 8 individuals, of which 6 individuals were then interviewed for the 2 open full-time slots. The second interview took place, it was myself, Fire Chief Scott Wazinski, Dr. Megan Ford, and Assistant Town Administrator Bonnie Holston. And of that, we have 2 of the gentlemen before you tonight. Dan Devine is the first candidate. He comes to us from Fitchburg State University, also part-time at Oakham, and was full-time in Sterling for a while. He holds a master's degree in, just a second, let me find it here again. Bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Anna Maria. And, you know, when in talking to Dan, he's now currently a lieutenant, actually, over at Worcester State. And I asked him, you know, why would he want to, is it a step back or a step forward? He felt this is a step forward for him. It's a different, certainly a different kind of policing, wants to get more into the community. The college, while you can get into the community, it's something that's a much different atmosphere. Expressed a lot of interest in the different programs we have in the community already, and fully confident of Dan's fitting right in with our community, fitting right in with the department. So with that, I'll give you Dan Devine.
Dan?
The Inquisition begins.
Question, I think it mentions here that you were with the Sterling Police Department?
Yes, sir.
Then you went to Worcester?
Yeah, back to Worcester State, correct.
Okay. Why that change from a town police department to the state school and back to a town?
Yeah, when I first began my career in law enforcement, it was at Worcester State for 2.5 years. Then I went to the full-time position at Sterling. The pay was low, and basically I was 25 years old, and they approached me and said, we'd like you to apply for a lieutenant's position. So I was very honored by that, and I thought it was a really big accomplishment at 25 years old to be tapped to become a lieutenant. So I did so, and I returned back and held my head high and was a young supervisor and had my, I've seen a lot in the 7 years that I've been there. I'm at a point in my career now where I'd like to, I find myself when I'm with my other officers in a group and the public comes up to ask a question, I find that myself, I'm always just jumping out, and I just enjoy the interaction with the public. And as I've shared in several of my interviews, it's I find there's a lot of tasks that people may see as menial that police officers feel like as though they're above a certain thing. Motor vehicle jump starts, helping someone on the side of the road, but that kind of stuff I see as a home run, and it's a great way to get the public support, for the police department by doing those types of calls that others may see as menial, but I feel as though I'd be an asset to this department in that regard.
We'll bring it to the board.
DJ?
I'd say you hit, actually, to answer your one question there, you hit many parts, and you answered what I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, coming back into the town enforcement piece, you're into a small town here. I mean, Sterling was small, very busy. How do you think your adjustment back into the small town environment will be? And
Just over a year ago, in July of 2013, I was appointed as a part-time officer in the town of Oakham, where I currently own a home, and that also kind of reinvigorated me to want to get back into patrol. It kind of reminded me of what I was lacking in my current position. The interaction with the community and my ability to get out there and just, poke my head into the library when there's a little event going on a Saturday, or poke my head into the senior center when they're having their lunches. It's just really, it's just an outlet for me, and I enjoy that.
all right, thank you.
Just one quick one for me. So Oakham Police Department, part-time right now currently. Would you keep that part-time position as well? Or would you?
I'm not sure what the regulations are, the policies of the police department.
I'm just being nosy.
No.
No. Got it. I think,
Is your answer?
There we are.
very good. Motivation is obviously really important in addition to your skills and abilities. And so I like your motivations for wanting this role. So I'm good.
Just one last thing. You hit something right on the head that I liked when you said you'd like to poke your head in when something's going on. I think that's, in our town, I think that's a major factor. We can get interaction between the police officers and the public and then in the business community, other than just the officers that are riding around. So I think we have a great department that does that right now, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I did the research in the town, and I saw the police department's website as well as their Facebook page, and that was one of the things. I'm not out, willy-nilly applying to every single department that I come across. I saw this department, I read up on it, did the research, and I thought it encompassed a lot of my values and the principles that I like to live, and conduct myself by, and I thought it would be a good fit.
Obviously, you didn't look up the part about the Board of Selectmen, so that's... I'm all set.
Very good.
Thank you.
Next individual is Thomas. Thomas, what is exactly you pronouncing your last name so I don't screw this up again?
Budka, sir.
Budka. Currently works for the MBTA Transit Police. He is 23 credits shy of his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He's still in progress. He's also a veteran of the United States Army, served over in, or served in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and he currently is in the reserves. Matter of fact, we didn't think we were actually going to originally have him tonight because of reserve training, but that actually changed. Again, he stood out in the interview process as, and I asked him, point blank, he's coming from a department of around 200 people down to a department of 20. What's the motivation? And one of the things he told me was, while the MBTA may have 2.5 million people go through its doors on a weekly basis, the only people he actually has a connection to are homeless people or vendors, because that's the only constant you deal with. And he wanted to get down to a community setting, lives locally, as you've seen by his address, really wants to get involved in the programs again in the community, and felt that going to a department that was more community-based than the Transit Authority Police was fitting. So for that, I introduce you, Mr. Bunch.
Thomas, like, one quick question, and to fill me in, because I have limited knowledge of this. MBTA police.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an area that you patrol, or is it just you do the trains, or?
We actually cover over 160 cities and towns. Anywhere where there's an MBTA station or that pays into the general fund of the MBTA, we actually have full jurisdiction, except for Avon. Avon actually limits us to MBTA property only with full jurisdiction. It gives us Chapter 90 full arrest powers. So we cover from the city of Boston out to Worcester, up to the Newburyport line, and then we actually have jurisdiction in Providence, Rhode Island within the station because the commuter rail goes down there.
Open it to the board, Paul.
You've lived around the United States a little bit, so.
I have, sir, yes.
So welcome back to New England and Massachusetts, and thank you for your service in the Army.
Thank you.
I appreciate that greatly. So I think the chairman started to hit on it with the MBTA, and you mentioned a little bit too as far as the interaction with people and how it's different. What do you see as a transition and maybe some of the challenges you may face as a transition from the sort of police work with the MBTA to a small town community?
One of the biggest things is really affecting the community policing, as Chief King hit on. The MBTA is big into community policing. They want you to interact with the patrons because the patrons want to feel safe as they're going through the system. However, in doing so, as he stated, there's 2.5 million people. So if I do affect somebody, say somebody like yourself comes through, I might come in, might help you get your pass, might fix a ticket issue that you have and actually direct you to where you're going. For you, it's big and it works out well, but I might not ever know that I actually affected change in you or did my job in the community policing aspect. Whereas here, it's a smaller town, there's only approximately 10,000 residents, and if I do make somebody's day, there's a good chance that within the next week to maybe even a month, I'm going to see them again, and I will know whether by myself or through the department that I made a change for them or actually helped them or I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Thank you.
I too want to thank you for your service in the
Sir.
military. I think Paul touched on it. Your transition into a small community and having to deal with 495 and others, a big part of our town is, unfortunately, we're at a crossroads, so
Sir.
there's going to be a lot of people you're going to have to deal with that don't live in town. So,
Correct, sir.
Back into your transit police background, how do you feel about treating all those transient drivers coming through? And
It's not an issue, sir. You treat everybody the same. I tell it to the homeless individuals that I deal with now. I treat them as a human being with respect and dignity. A lot of times it's unfortunate, but you do fall in a situation where people aren't treated the same, and I tell them all the time, I said, listen, I said, you're only in a different place than me. I said, in 5 years, I could be homeless and be living on the streets, and I'm in the same place as you. So you're no different as a person. So I take that, and I treat people as they want to be treated. It doesn't matter if you're from New York, California, Illinois, I'm going to treat them with the same respect as I would with the citizens of Littleton.
Thank you.
Maybe just one quick one for me. So you've had a good variety of industry experience, and your current role is with police, and now obviously this role is as well. Is this the kind of path you see your career going in law enforcement?
Absolutely. This is what I've wanted to do. I actually befriended a student resource officer when I was 16, when I was in high school, and he's really the one that set me on the path. He aided me in getting into the military and really setting my future to where it needed to be. And with that, I've achieved what I've wanted, and now I want to keep going as far as possible within this career field.
Great.
I just wanted to reiterate again, we were really happy, we were really pleased to see 160 some odd resumes for, what was minimal slots open. And while I know it hasn't come back from the Attorney General, I think Bonnie Holson will also tell you too, we actually fully used the veterans' preference in this round. So
That's good. That's good.
we'll continue to do so.
That was a bylaw that the town passed recently at our annual town meeting, so just veterans' preference. Ready?
I'm ready.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Daniel Devine of Oakham, Mass. and Thomas Budka of Air, Mass. as police patrol officers with the Littleton Police Department, subject to successful completion of medical testing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Again, it's a smile.
Moving on to a reserve officer position, we actually had two to appoint tonight, but Mr. Corcoran, his future son-in-law approached him on Thursday, didn't know he was gonna be a future son-in-law, and said his daughter and her boyfriend were traveling down south to visit family. He was gonna ask her to marry her while he's down there, and ask both sets of parents to be down there, so obviously we'll get him back in to see you in September for obvious reasons. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Derek Camello. He's holds a master's degree in business administration and a bachelor's criminal justice from Anna Maria. He currently still works at the Fitchburg State University Police Department. As you see, he has a wide range of experience. Was a summer officer in Wellfleet, so does have some municipal experience. We're bringing him on currently as a reserve. We're looking forward to it. We're going to get him trained up on the both as a cruiser reserve and also to assist us in our mission. And with that, Mr. Camello, again, he stood out. He's a great fit for this community. And with that, I open him up to your questions.
Hi, Derek. How you doing?
Very well, and yourself?
Good. Pittsburgh State University. I'm alumni. Good place.
Yes, very nice place.
I guess I can end it there.
Sing the school fight song?
What's your future? Are you looking to stay at Fitchburg, or would you look to be in a town like Littleton or another town that would offer a
Definitely
position?
interested in the municipality in Littleton. Yeah, I know Ashley and Pablo and Brian as well, and I've heard a lot of good things about the area, the department, and the size of the community. I'm from Lunenburg, so similar size. So yeah, I think I would love to be a full-time officer at some point here.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Paul.
It's mentioned already now that with your time at Fitchburg State, and actually quite a bit of time there, 10
10
years or
years,
so. College environment, obviously populated a lot by college kids.
Correct.
But certainly there's some adults going through there. But nevertheless, a college environment versus a town environment, there are tremendous differences. Community policing has been mentioned previous evening. Maybe some of the issues are somewhat different. So what do you see as some of the challenges of making a transition from a college campus to a town like this?
Well, I've been fortunate enough, like some universities, some colleges are enclosed and gated community, whereas Fitchburg is open. So we have a lot of people that come through, a lot of transients. So I have had the opportunity to work both with the the university setting, college kids, parties, drunks, as well as people from, homeless people, prostitutes, drug dealers. We're also sworn in as
I don't know what your
specials.
alma mater is.
I'm trying to make it a little bit better.
There's a couple points off there.
I guess Fitchburg has come on some hard times. The last, 10 years?
So I've had the opportunity to work kind of both because it is an open campus. So like I said, we're sworn in as specials also in the city of Fitchburg. So we have Russ Powers, which we assist them. So, I mean, I wear both hats there. There's the community policing, as Dan said, and then there's also the municipal side of our job there, which is, we're lucky, unlike some other universities and colleges.
Thank you.
Masters in Business Administration. You looking for a budget director or something, Chief? Is this where this is going? I mean, so why the big change? I mean, you did have you have a bachelor's in criminal justice also. So, always law enforcement, or?
Yes, for the past years I've been in law enforcement. And as Chief King said, I worked as a summer officer down in Wellfleet, and so I've had that experience as well.
And that has been your career path, it looks like?
Correct, yeah,
From the get-go?
from the get-go, yes.
Yeah, all right, very good. Thank you.
Actually, I don't have a question for you. I just wanted to make a comment. So, trained sexual assault investigator, I just wanted to say that's something near and dear to my heart. I'm actually trying to figure out right now what her job title is, but my roommate from college, she's one of my best friends ever, has been a major leader in Rhode Island women advocacy, and she's now the forensic interviewer for the Rhode Island Children's Advocacy Center. So all those things are, again, something I'm pretty passionate about because of her, so I like to see that on your resume. I think it brings something kind of different. So no question, just saying it's a great team.
Well, separate. Could do both of them?
No, we'll bring him back in.
I'm talking about the other candidate, Paul.
I'll bring him back in.
You're not gonna need them?
It won't happen in time for the parade anyway, so.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, certainly, if you want to meet him afterwards, I certainly would entertain and can explain. As a matter of fact, he's, Mr. Corcoran's, he's a retired Lowell officer, just recently retired, he's 55 years old. He, really is just coming here to help us out with details and the town functions. He's not gonna go back on the road, but also too, he's an instructor in many different programs, so we're also gonna integrate him into our in-service training program. So if you wouldn't mind appointing him, I'd love it, and then I certainly could bring him back to introduce him to you at a future meeting.
Yeah, judging by his resume, I think he's
Yeah.
qualified.
And like the idea of having someone there to coach and guide, that's great.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Derek E. Camello of Lunenburg, Mass. and Paul Cochran of Lowell, Mass. as reserve police officers for the Littleton Police Department.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Chief?
Thank you, Chief.
I may say one thing before they actually walk away. You three gentlemen are extremely articulate, well-versed, and presented yourselves very well. And if you're presenting yourselves that way in our community, we scored 3 home runs here, Chief. Well done, buddy.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I think this is something I should have brought up during public input, and that was our selectman, Mr. McCurdy's not here today. The reason he's not here is because Steele is being sworn in tonight as the fire chief of Groton. So I want to congratulate. I think there's a number of us that would want to be there, but congratulations,
Great,
Steele.
yeah. If we weren't meeting tonight, many of us would be over in Groton for the ceremony. So congratulations, Chief Purdy.
Yes.
Now, the next one, Keith, guide me in this. We have a continuation of the public hearing, Act 3, 529 King Street, all alcohol restaurant license. I know They've asked this to be continued until September 8th. Do we have to read anything, or?
No, the motion should be, I should say that, just to recap, the board opened the hearing on August 11th and then continued it till tonight. The applicant has now requested that the hearing be continued until your next meeting, which is September 8th. So the motion would be to vote to continue it until September 8th, and I would propose the time of 8 PM for that night.
Just write that down. Ready, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I am, Vice Chair.
Make a motion to, what do I want to do here? Just have a
Vote to
Continue.
continue until September 8th. at 8.
tough day today at work, sorry about that. Make a motion to continue the public hearing for Act 3 at 529 King Street, all alcohol restaurant license in accordance to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, to 8 PM on September the 8th.
It's moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so it's continued till September 8th. Second part is liquor license status, Common Foods Incorporated, doing business as Littleton Sub Shop, also known as Pub in the Common. Mr. Brian Burke, if you could fill us in and what's happened. I know I've been there and have seen the work being done, but we'd certainly like have you explain.
Well, good evening, everyone. I just want to say, I'm excited to report that the ramp has been torn out, and the problem that we thought we were having with this large piece of granite that was stuck into the foundation of the basement of the building, which offset our ability to be in compliance with the ramp, has wonderfully become a non-issue. And we were able to dig up the whole non-compliant ramp and then have a new one installed. It was a little cumbersome and very expensive, but now we have a ramp that's actually in compliance and doesn't need a variance from the Architectural Access Board in Boston. So I've had conversations with the executive director, Tom Hawkins, in Boston, and he went on vacation and had assigned the process of having this issue presented to the board so that they were going to vote not to have to take any action, just to kind of close the file on it. But for some reason, while he was on vacation, that did not occur. But he assured me, as one of my conversations today, is that on the 25th of this month, they will take the vote to close the file so that no variance is required. And that should close the book. And I provided photographs to Keith and to
Roland.
Roland. And I think we're at that point, we just need Roland to go through now and do the measurement, take out the scale, if you will, and make a final determination. And I think we can close the book on this as well. So we're fairly excited, considering that some of the options that we had to entertain at one point were extremely cumbersome and expensive. Just to get it into an acceptable variance range for the AAB in Boston. So I think we got lucky with being a little aggressive in how it was built. It would have added a much more of expense. Greg Earl is, went out of his way to really do a good job in getting a new person in there to do it. Not that the other person made a mistake, but they had a more of a different technique and a little different style to make it work, which was good. And also, Greg wanted me to say thank you to the board for being patient and letting this extend on for as long as it has been, because with the expense and everything else and finding the right people to do it, we had to entertain a variety of options, which none seemed to be very appealing, including taking up sidewalks, changing doorways, moving heating systems, to what we finally were able to do is come up with the best solution, which is a compliant ramp.
Perfect.
Without having to tamper with the foundation, which is more important than anything in a historical building.
Actually, it looks good, actually, too.
Yeah, came out well.
Board, do we have any questions? We've been through this a number of times. couple different options, but I would probably just say
Option one's
option
looking,
one seems
Yeah,
obvious.
option one, and I think we just, as Attorney Burke said, that it's subject to the final inspection of the building commissioner, so I think we could just include that in the motion as well.
all right, you ready, Mr.
You
Chair?
won't have to come back.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote relative to the alcoholic common vehicular license for Common Foods, Inc., Gregory P. Ethers, manager, doing business as Littleton Sub Shop, AKA Pub on the Common, 486 King Street, as follows. To approve said license for the remainder calendar year 2014, subject to the approval of said ramp by building commissioner.
It's moved in second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good
Thank you
job.
very much. Have a good night.
You too.
15 minutes before a public hearing.
Yeah,
But that was a public hearing, huh?
yeah, there's a public hearing at 8.
Get the election warrant off.
Yep, let's go to election warrant number 7A.
This is a primary election that's on Tuesday, September 9th, and the town clerk has presented the selectmen with the form of the warrant, which has been approved as a form by town council. It will be posted by the constable. This is the state primary election.
Ready?
Ready?
Okay. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to execute the warrant for the state primary election to be held Tuesday, September 9, 2014, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Charles Forbes K Gymnasium, Littleton Middle School, 55 Russell Street, and to direct the constable post said warrant forthwith.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much. Do we have time for the capital?
It's going to take a little
Yeah, I
time.
think we could have time for a capital update, or the road salt contract isn't going to take.
That's an easy
Or
one.
you could do the staffing vacant, actually, you'd have time for the staffing vacancy reviews for the, why don't we, since the chief is here,
Yeah, sure.
why don't we do that, 7D? We know he's been up late with the, you've been up late.
That's bull. That's bull.
That's no.
What a setup that was. He usually takes care of that.
I know. Slow on the trigger today.
Phoenix, Arizona, there was a car dealership where Mr. Earnhardt would sit on a bull and tell you, come down and get a good car deal, that ain't no bull.
Chief.
Okay, as you know, on September 3rd, the deputy chief's position officially becomes vacant when I ascend from acting chief status to get sworn in as chief. So I'm asking the board to allow me to fill the open deputy chief slot from the current ranks of the Littleton Police Department. Obviously, the position is a key role within the department. It's fully funded in the department, currently. The position serves as the true second in command of the department. It's supported fiscally both this year and next year without any problems. How I propose to fill it is utilizing for the first time actually a professional assessment center, and then chief's oral board, and then a singular a final interview with myself in presenting one candidate to the board for your up or down vote. The assessment center is as much about finding all the strengths as it is also finding out about the new individual, whoever is selected, about what areas they may be weak in and need further training in. The assessment center will score them in the different aspects of the expectations of the job, and with that, we'll be able to target those deficiencies that the person may, or whoever's promoted, may or may not have. I think it'll be a very good way to, when I moved up from a deputy chief, I had been the lieutenant for a number of years. I was already serving as the second in command of the department, so it was an easy transition. Being second in command, even moving to lieutenant at this point is no different. There's a difference in being a manager and being a union middle manager. And there certainly is a difference in being the deputy chief of the department. The deputy chief has to be in step with not only myself, but the board. He certainly is as much the board's representative as I am. In my absence, the board has to know that they have full and complete confidence in the decisions the deputy chief is making. So I believe this professional assessment center will assist us and assist myself in making that selection, along with the secondary oral board, which will also, as you saw, consist of not only chiefs and some secondary in commands from the area, but also a town resident and probably another administrator from within the town.
I just have a quick question. I got a question, Chief, on the assessment center. Where does that take place, and who actually does the administration of it? And
This is a
do
company.
you pick the program out of a catalog, or how's that
No,
developed?
this is, they come in, they look at our policies, they look at our procedures, they look at our job descriptions, they tailor it to what our deputy chief does. The two chiefs who have the company that I'd like to go with, they're retired chiefs, Rick Stanley from North Andover and Paul Donovan from Tewksbury. They run the company. They use chiefs that the chiefs that come in, the assessors who come in will not be from around here. They will not know who the officers are. Matter of fact, they don't even have a name when they're going through the assessment. It's assessment 1, assessment 2, assessment 3. They don't have any names. They have no knowledge of who the people are or anything else. So there's no
Bias.
if you will, there's no, I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for.
Prejudice, sort of.
No bias, good word, or something like that, towards, they have no knowledge of, the strengths and weaknesses to begin with. There's no friendships there, there's no, and as a matter of fact, I think that works out well for a program like this.
They have no outside information
Correct. That's what I
about
was
the
looking for. Outside info.
applicants.
Correct.
Other than, all they know is what they see during the assessment.
Right, applicant A, applicant B, applicant C, they can't even, so.
How far along are you in regards to that program?
We're
being-
just in the start of this. My timetable is, under the union contract, we have to advertise internally for a month. So I'd like to post it for the 1st of September till September 30th. They're gonna probably start the process late October. I'll finish it up in November, come to you early December. I'm looking to hopefully have the person on board for right around January 1st, 2015 is my plan. So we took plenty of time to plan this out and move it. It's not something I wanted to move on fast. Obviously, I'm certain I could have come back and asked you back this in June, knowing, what my position was all about already. However, I wanted to settle in a little bit myself, discussed it with Mr. Bergman, Assistant Town Administrator Holston, and really felt the assessment center and setting it up this way would be a change, but it'd also be a change for the future because this would go into the policies, the procedures of the department as required under accreditation for promotional processes. So this is also part and parcel with us moving forward in accreditation.
Nice.
And the assessment center's got a quote here for 1 to 4 candidates. Would you try to whittle it down to 1 to 4 before sending them there?
No,
Whoever,
They,
the
they,
7.
they told me, because I know them and I've known them for years, that they'll put in the 6 candidates without a problem.
Any other questions?
Actually, yeah, and you hit on an area. So as it says, the price proposal is 1 to 4, and whether they'll take more than that,
Yes,
under
they
that
will.
price, that's
Yeah.
fine. But off the cuff, how many folks you feel are qualified?
All the sergeants are qualified, so there's 5 sergeants who could possibly apply for it. And I think, I'm not sure, if all will apply or not. One has expressed that, he's kind of edged out in his career and probably would not put in for it, but I'm certainly sure the other 4 are going to go through the process.
I'd ask you to consider this, because if 4 do come forward, that's a significant portion of the department. And there's a collateral benefit of the assessing of their ability to become deputy chief. You may well learn a lot about the department also. as you go through it. So strengths and weaknesses in their responses to everything you have set up in this proposal as they go through their assessments may well indicate strengths and weaknesses of the department also. So I'd ask you to consider that, please.
Oh, well, part of this, and I didn't really talk about it because we were just talking about the deputy. This is also gonna point out, who doesn't make deputy, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and maybe, is there an inherent, training issue that we have in the department? Is there an inherent, okay, if I see everybody's weak in, just let's say budgeting, okay, then obviously I know I've got to get them out of the budget schools, But absolutely, it's a good thermometer as to where we are as a whole in training our supervisors and where they're at. So certainly you're going to use it for that also.
Thank you.
Point. Good.
Who's that?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the police chief's request under the staffing vacancy review policy to fill from within the Littleton Police Department the following full-time benefit positions: deputy police chief and police sergeant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
One more question, if I may, Mr. Chair. You brought up the lieutenant's position from which you were promoted from. I know there was talk about, way back when you were first promoted, about some type of patrol lieutenant. Is there any indication or any thoughts to that?
After this, obviously, I was going to speak on it now. After the deputy chief is promoted, which you just approved also without me talking about it, was also the promotion of a sergeant to fill in for the sergeant who's being promoted out of the ranks to deputy. So that's the next step in this, is an assessment center for that process. I'd like to get the sergeant's group stabilized first, then come back with a proposal in the spring. It would not add to the ranks, the ranked numbers, however, out of the force, so out of the 5 sergeants, there'd be 1 lieutenant within that 5 sergeants. So there'd be a lieutenant and 4 sergeants. So it would be adding a different layer of management over to the patrol force. However, it would not be changing. It would be a working lieutenant, which is what the job descriptions, when the study came in, changed the job description of the lieutenant more to a supervisory role of a unit, rather than being second in command, where the deputy chief's job description now is totally about that. So yes, I would be certainly, coming back at some point, I think, to talk about that. But I want to get the sergeant's promotions done and then come back and talk about that. But my thing would be, it does not require any more staff, and it would not be another ranking officer within the department. While it would be a lieutenant's position, it would come from the ranks of the sergeant, and I would not replace that sergeant. The lieutenant would be a working lieutenant.
So bottom line, 17
Correct.
is 17.
Bodies still,
Right.
instead of having 5 sergeants, it'd be 4 sergeants and a lieutenant.
Gotcha.
So would be no changes that way.
You have better structure, rank
There'll be structure
structure.
over the patrol force, that the lieutenant over there would control scheduling other things directly, and, and it would help the deputy chief's position when it comes to, especially with the amount of paperwork required to keep up with accreditation once you get accredited. It's not something that you just do and then it just stays dormant. The paper trail that you need to prove that you're actually doing what you're saying you're supposed to be doing under the policies is quite extensive, so the deputy is gonna be pretty busy.
The first accreditation is the easy one. The re-accreditation, that's when you do your work. Been there, done that. Thank you.
Thanks, chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Moving on, we could do 7C and probably 7E.
7C is annual contract for procurement of road salt off of the state contract.
Looks pretty good to me.
You have a random question on this one?
Yeah, how salty is the salt?
It's a little bit like that.
I want to hear what this is. Where did I get
Okay.
it from? Or?
Yeah.
No, so the salt ruins our cars and the road and whatever, right? Is there any other alternative thing that's better for everything around us that doesn't cost $1 million, or just curious? Or is salt the only solution to this problem?
It's a good question, but I think there are other chemicals they put down, but the cost of,
A lot more. That's what I
And
figured
they're more
was-
corrosive, actually,
Are they?
that chloride, I forget what the name of it is. The liquid stuff?
No good.
It's more corrosive.
Sodium chloride?
Sodium chloride? No, it's that. Ba-dum-bum. Ba-dum-bum. How salty is the salt? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, tell us truthfully.
Yes.
Just curious.
It's-
Just had to
It's
ask.
expensive.
Okay.
How big are the salt crystals?
Is it Morton salt? We can go on all night.
Just a cubic?
Well, we get 5 minutes to, go ahead.
Wander.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Ready? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize execution of a memorandum of understanding to purchase off the VEH 91 State Road Salt contract for 2014-2015 at 50.57 per ton, $50.57 per ton.
Second.
Moved in second, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It might be a little different than 50/57. That was the price the last 2 years. We have to execute the agreement to agree to purchase so that they can get a price based on the number of communities that are going to participate.
So it could be cheaper.
It could be. I mean, it's always been very competitive.
Should have run it up against sodium chloride just to make sure.
As long as it's not Morton's. A new sign for the,
Yeah, and actually, while we're doing this, if it's okay with the board, but we have 3 minutes, Mr. Cole, if you'd like to speak on this, since you've taken the lead on getting a new sign, he showed me the diagram which is included in here. The old sign has been taken down because we had a number of complaints of it, with how it was hanging, didn't look good for our 300th celebration, but would you like to speak?
Very briefly, it'd be nice if it could be done by the time the parade happens, but that's not going to happen. I think that that design is pretty much acceptable because it matches pretty much what is at the police station, and it has a kind of a strong character to it rather than a single post. And I've gotten one estimate on it, and I was expecting another one today, but I didn't get it. But based on the first estimate, hopefully it can be done for, somewhere around $5,000. And that's if we buy the granite posts and they are installed by the highway department. So I guess it depends on, which way you want to go. Do you want to spend the extra buck and just have the company do it in its entirety, or have the highway department, do that? I've spoken with Jim Clyde, and the highway department obviously is capable of doing it.
Where's the main expense for the $5,000? Because I work with sign companies, and granted, I'm not talking about the granite post itself, but the sign itself.
The sign at the police station is about 2 inches thick. It's a composite material, and the people I spoke to, I was told of the same people that did that sign. And basically what it amounts to is a composite material that's sandwiched with a piece of metal, because the composite material itself, because of the weight, the anchoring might not last. So they sandwich it with a piece of metal, and they put the supports, the anchors into that. So it's obviously a two-phase sign. The composite material is a black background with a gold leaf lettering that is routed into the composite material, and it includes the town seal. I mean, when you think about it, yeah, it's a sign, but there's quite a bit of work involved in it. There really is. And until I get a second and third price, we really won't know whether the first price was in the ballpark or way low or way high. But I quite honestly, when I started looking into it and looking at the sign at the police station, I kind of figured it'd be around $5,000.
They're also very maintenance-free, which is
The thing is that, you know, the composite material and things, it's not like buying a wood sign where, you know, after a few years, it's cracking and things like that. You know, the composite signs really hold up well over the number of years, which I think is also, you know, worthwhile.
And it just looks, you know,
Nice.
You'd think it was wood, actually, if you were standing up next to it, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, we could get a sheet of plywood and put stick-on letters, but, you know,
Isn't that what is up there?
get what you pay for.
Board, any questions?
Will the Indian have the Bible in his hand?
Say that again?
Will the Indian have the Bible in his hand?
It's in the seal. We're
I
not
probably shouldn't have brought that
We're not
up.
gonna fiddle with
That
it.
may not be
There's two
politically correct
seals, one with the
today.
Bible and one without. We want the Bible, otherwise he's just looking for a high five.
Probably the Quran.
Gotta learn all kinds of things today.
Was that on the back of the plate?
Yeah, let's see, Holden.
Okay.
About that, right, ready?
Yep.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to the Littleton bylaw, subsection, sign bylaw, subsection 173-34C, to approve the design of the new sign for the town offices and Movement Hall Library, to replace existing signage on the front, on the town-owned property along King Street entrance to the Shattuck Street buildings.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Being that it's 8 o'clock.
Public hearing.
Town of Littleton Board of Selectmen, public hearing notice, transfer station fees. The Littleton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, August 18th, 2014, at 8 p.m. at Littleton Town Offices, Room 103 at 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass., to adopt fees for the town transfer station effective September 1st, 2014, as shown below. No fee changes are proposed. The fee schedule from September 1st to August 31st of each year. Nothing has changed. Annual sticker would be $100. The second sticker would be $50. Senior citizens would be $30. Senior citizens' second sticker would be $30. Replacement of a lost sticker, $15. Bag fees, 33-gallon trash bag would be $2. 15-gallon trash bag would be $1. 8.5-gallon trash bag is 75 cents. Fees for miscellaneous items, appliances without Freon stays at $12. Dishwashers, stoves, water heaters, appliances with Freon are $22, which could be refrigerators, freezers, and air conditioners. Microwave ovens each at $12. CRTs and TVs, $18. Propane tanks, $14. Tires, $5. Bulky furniture, which would include things like couches, stuffed chairs, and mattresses, $15. Large metal items each is $22. Wood, building debris, $55. Excludes asphalt, shingles, drywall, and insulation. Full-size pickup truck load, that's what the $55 is. Brush loads, full-size pickup would be $35. Comments may be submitted in writing by noon Thursday, August 14th, 2014, to the Board of Selectmen, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Joe Knox, Chair. Anything, Board?
The on-your pay-as-the-throw committee, it's working, continues to work, and 6 years? Fifth year, I said 6 years last time. Fifth year without raising fees, outstanding.
I think it should be pointed out that we were going to be close to charging $400 or more per sticker 5 years ago. So that's the improvement. Granted, you have to pay for the bags, but that's $100 in the price of a bag. Easy. And for old people like me, $30 is a real treat.
Really? I would have never guessed that.
I have a big S in my
Do you?
special, yeah.
Oh, special.
Chest.
You're special, you're special, all right.
Yes, huh?
You and your alma mater.
What we learned tonight.
Is there someone speaking in the background? Wait till you're called on.
Are you ready, Mr. Special Chair?
Oh, we have to open to the
Oh,
public.
that's true.
Any public comment? Now he has his chance and he say a word.
Already made my comment.
I think we're all set.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the hearing. All those in favor?
Aye. Ready for a motion there, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Special Chair. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Town Code Chapter 181 to approve the fee structure for the use of the Town Littleton Transfer Station effective September 1, 2014, as contained in the public hearing notice, with no increases for stickers or bag fees from their current levels.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great work. That didn't bother you, did the chair go back?
No, it's been a long day, but that had nothing to do with it.
6A, capital projects, update on previously funded projects. Bonnie, please fill us in on this.
Basically, what I did is I took a list of all of the open articles, which have not been closed out, that were approved by either an annual or a special town meeting for capital item. And I give you a little instruction on how I set them up in the general ledger, but I've given you a comprehensive list showing items that were carried forward from previous years totaling about $593,000. In addition to the $1,400,000 that was approved for fiscal 2015 projects. And they're segregated by department, and it's in the UMIS system, or the state's accounting way of segregating things. So I'll just kind of walk you through them. But the first one is the sewer feasibility study, which was originally appropriated at $35,000 for this particular one. There's about $19,000 remaining from that. The project hasn't officially been closed, so it continues until it's officially closed. The next one is one under the finance department, and it's for the assessor training services, which we're coordinating through now for our transition between Ken Mildren and our new assessor, Kathy Miller. The next section is IT, information systems. There are two articles open. One is the GIS mapping conversion, which is ongoing. It should be, I think, closed this year. We're in the final phases of that, but there's $22,000 remaining of the original $35,000 that was appropriated. And for this fiscal year, we had $10,000 appropriated for a virtual server, which will be expended in this fiscal year. The next one-
Excuse me one second,
Sure.
Bonnie, just to go back, just so folks know that the sewer feasibility was 5/7/12 annual town meeting, and the assessors was just past 5/5/14 annual town meeting, so they haven't been laying around long.
No, no. If you go to the next one, under the planning board, this was one that was also appropriated just this past May at $100,000 for master planning, which is just in the early phases of being looked at. The next group is under public buildings, and one of these is a carryover, and it's for the council on aging kitchen work that's being done, so we're using that in coordination with another article to do the actual full work. But the first one was appropriated a few years ago, May 7th of 12. There's $26,000 remaining from that original $32,000 appropriation.
What's
The
that, TH kitchen?
Town hall.
Oh, town hall.
There's only so many characters in the ledger that I can.
Senior kitchen.
Yeah, gotcha. The next group following that were all done this past May under the building, the assessment study that was done. The first one is the high school site. These expenditures will be allocated for particular projects at the high school, $27,324. There are particular projects that were earmarked for the middle school site, totaling $1,680. At the Russell Street site, totaling $4,400. Shaker Lane is a larger one. Shaker Lane is targeted $224,553 in improvements. The town hall site, which is $143,600. And in addition to the first one that I mentioned, this $114,000 for the council on aging kitchen will be used to conduct the full project. And then the tennis courts at Shattuck Street here for $13,480. So those are the public building projects that are still open. Then we get to public safety. In the police area, there's carry through for the police radios. from the May 6th, 2013 town meeting totaling $8,231. And the rest are all from this past May, May 5th, 2014. The marked vehicles, which were just paid for recently. So there's a small balance there that we used to finish the outfitting for our equipment. The unmarked vehicle was also purchased recently. The vehicle maintenance, which is typically spent on tires and vehicle repairs for the police cruisers. And the public safety radio maintenance contract of $10,104, which will be used to pay for maintenance on that particular piece of infrastructure. Then we got on to fire.
So before we move on, can we ask the chief? Do you mind, Mr. Chair, if I ask the chief a question? In regards to the 5613 police radios, you have a balance of $8,231?
Actually, the bills just haven't shown up yet on that number. They just were billed.
Okay,
They
are
just
they
came in.
actual radios, or what was it?
They were
for?
actually portables and mobile radios. And actually, I purposely waited until the end of June because that's when the radio companies come up with the sales. And
Gotcha.
I'm actually gonna be able to purchase another 10 portables more than I would have if I did it 8 months in advance of that.
Nice,
So it worked out pretty well for us.
very good, thank you.
For fire, there's the UHF radio system, 40K, which was one of the original articles for this, but it's being expended this year to close that project out, now that the upgrades have been done. There's one from May 7th, 2012, which was the fire station bay doors. We originally appropriated $200,000. There's a small balance remaining. And I would wait until PMBC just closes that out and tells me that that project is complete. The next one is the vehicle exhaust that was appropriated May 7th, 2012 for $68,000. That's actually probably going to be going out to bid in the next few weeks. We've had a lengthy process trying to get the bid document together. The vendors have a history of filing bid protests. So it's a very detailed document that we needed to get together. And we've just kind of reached the conclusion with that.
What's the bid protest?
The vendors like to fight among each other. So whoever gets low bid, another vendor will come in and say, well, they didn't bid it properly because of this. So we need to make sure that we have everything in a row.
Is there a state minimum, because like federal government has a minimum that's protestable? $10 million comes to the top of my head. But does the state have a minimum?
No, there's a minimum threshold, or it used to be 25, now it's been raised to 35,000, but pretty much anything over 25,000 has to follow a formal bid process.
Yes.
So anything over that can be protested.
All right.
The next one is for the fire station windows and doors project. There was $85,000 originally appropriated, and there's $23,300 remaining. Again, this is under PNBC's general jurisdiction. Also from May 7th, 2012, there was the fire department roof repairs for $16,000. This was for the roof on the back building, and I know that the chief will probably give you an update on that later. But nothing has been expended from that as of yet. There was a small amount of money remaining from the May 6, 2013 ambulance purchase of $17,936. It's my understanding that that's going to be fully expended in the next few weeks. It's for the outfitting and the equipment that goes along with that ambulance.
Was that from the enterprise fund? Is that the remaining balance?
That's from the ambulance receipts,
Okay.
so it came directly from that. Then also from May 6, 2013, there was the major equipment repairs account, which is originally budgeted at $15,000. There was $10,000 remaining, almost $11,000 remaining. That gets carried forward. It's used for apparatus repairs and maintenance as needed, and it continues until expended. Also from the May 6, 2013 meeting was the UHF radio upgrade of $120,000. Again, this has been like a 3-year project. There's a small balance, but again, that will be closed out this year of $6,700. Let's see. The next one is the modular building that was approved at May 6, 2013 town meeting for $38,410. This pays for the initial setup cost for the electrical wiring and the lease payments that are due monthly for that particular modular building. So it will be fully utilized in the next year. from the November 4th, 2013 special town meeting, we had the microwave radio system at $120,000. There's $12,613 remaining from that. And that's the end of the old articles. So for the new ones that were approved this past May, we have the major equipment and repairs, which again covers the apparatus, the $15,000. The final appropriation for the UHF radio upgrade of $35,000. Turnout gear of $12,000. And the command vehicle replacement at $34,430. I know that that's, I think, coming this week.
Picked up tonight.
Hey! And again, a small supplemental for the modular building to fully pay out the lease on those payments.
All right, Mr. Chair, if I may. Chief, while we got you in the audience, you have 3 separate line items here for radio systems. You have 2 for UHF, one started at 120, and you got another 35,000 this fiscal year at the annual. And then you had, the original was fiscal year annual town meeting of 5/13, May of 13. Then you had 11/13 for the microwave system. Can you kind of give us an update as to, you got 3 different issues there, and when things will all come together?
Sure, so the UHF radio project, that was the main radio project. That was a 3-year plan. That the first year did all of the infrastructure, the base stations, between the fire station, the police station. Second year did the vehicles, and then our final phase, we just did all new portable radios. So we're still paying off those bills. We just received 36 new portable radios that were given out to the officers, as well as mounted inside the apparatus. So we're still paying those bills off. Last year, the microwave, that was an unforeseen issue. That wasn't part of the main radio project. That was a joint public safety issue. Basically, the copper lines were failing. And we had several times during transmissions where the radio would go blank. And the cruisers or a fire and an ambulance would try to call dispatch, and nobody would ever hear them. So we basically did away with the copper lines and did a microwave system from the PD up to Cedar Hill, Newtown Hill, Oak Hill, and Spec Pond. And so that basically covers the whole town with microwave, and eliminated the copper wires that we can stop paying rent on from Verizon. And that is, I think they were only waiting for one more move on that, from the Air Road site up to Oak Hill for police.
Just police.
Just police, yeah. And,
Police River hasn't moved from Air Road yet, they were waiting on their, to be honest with you, they forgot to do it when they did the project, and now they've got to bring a new tower guy back and everything else, but it's on their dime, not on ours.
Right.
So, their problem, it was right in the bid and everything else, so it's quite clear, and they know it's their problem.
So the microwave, that whole system was replaced to get rid of the copper lines, and now, basically, having that in place, we're using about this much of it, and over time, the highway, light and water, the schools, everybody will be able to start to get on that and utilize that system.
Nice.
So basically, everything's coming together this year as the final phase, and most of that should be closed out by the end of the year.
So communications in town is going to be top-notch.
It should be.
Okay.
But during those storms, the only reason we had any issue at all was 3 direct lightning hits on the microwave system. But because the microwave system, it just took 30 seconds for itself to reset, and we're back up where the copper lines took a hit, we'd still be out today, probably.
Right.
So. 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time, but better than the 2 and 3 days we would go without a loop working.
Nice.
And unfortunately, we did experience that, those lightning hits, that 30 seconds, there were multiple calls going on, and we figured it out by listening to the other channels, but we were able to work around it.
That's the only thing we have. Sorry about that, Bonnie.
That's okay. The next page details the Littleton School Department's appropriations for capital. They had about $42,000 in carryovers and $343,000 that was appropriated this fiscal year. The carryovers are pretty much for projects that are going to be completed this year, but they're trying to line them up all together with PMBC's help. So the Shaker Lane Univents was $25,000, so part of that will be done this fiscal year, the rest of the Univents. School security, there's a small balance of about $1,700 that was carried forward from the original $22,000 from the May 2012 town meeting. School iPads and cards lease, there's a small balance of $596 from the May 2013 town meeting. Again, from the May 2013 town meeting, another appropriation for the Univents project at $25,000 that is unexpended but will be done this year. The school playground equipment at Shaker Lane from the May 2013 town meeting, $30,000 was appropriated, there's $1,600 remaining. And from May 2013, the MH Kimball Trust gave $14,200 for some technology programming at the school. There's a balance of $2,400 remaining from that. The school department, I work with Steve Mark quite a bit, and he's very good at closing these out as quickly as he can, but he had carried forward, some of these for projects to kind of do a larger scope with more funding to get a better price. From this year, we have, again, the iPad lease payment of $33,000, this technology upgrades of $65,000, the network upgrades of $25,000, school security at $50,000, the Shaker Lane network upgrades at $25,000, the Shaker Lane Wi-Fi upgrades of $25,000, and the high school administrative roof section at $100,000, which will be coordinated with PMBC. And again, the MH Kimball appropriation for this year at $20,000 for biology. And that's the school. The next one, I'm going to do my best where Jim's not here, but I know some of this information. It might be better to have him do an update at another time. But there are some $124,000 in carry forward items and $161,000 that was appropriated this fiscal year for capital projects. One is for the rear boom flare mower at $25,000. There's $387 remaining from that. That'll probably be closed out this year. The Mac Hook refurbishment from 2010, there's $2,800 remaining from that. That will probably also be closed out.
Now, just one question for you. When you say closed out, we're going to just spend it, or we're going to put it back into the general?
If it's not spent, it'll go back to general.
Very good.
And he just keeps it in case there's an item that didn't get addressed, but we looked at him this year.
5 years later?
Yeah, he's with it. The pole barn is one that, may be a problem because in looking at the cost to construct the pole barn, it's probably going to be more than this. So he's been working with PMBC, as far as I know, to try and get some better pricing on this to see what it would really be to construct the pole barn. So he has not spent much out of this other than some preliminary engineering.
What's a pole barn?
It would be like an open structure, not wired, just for storage for equipment.
Oh.
Big canopy.
Gotcha.
Canopies.
The next two items are for some refurbishments that he was coordinating with both the Max and the loader from May of 2012. $80,000 was earmarked for 2 Max to be refurbished. There's $17,000 remaining from that. He typically does these in phases so that the equipment is not out of service for a lengthy period of time. So I would expect that this would be finished this fiscal year. Also the same thing for the loader. There's a small balance of $2,700 from the $40,000 that was appropriated, but he's anticipating having that finished this year. Major equipment repairs appropriated in May of 2013 are $15,000. There's a small balance of $1,700 remaining. That article is again used for the larger apparatus repairs and maintenance costs. There was another loader refurbishment account for a different loader in May of 2013 of $35,000, and there's $3,900 remaining of that, which will probably be closed this fiscal year. The hot box trailer, which I know that he just got the quotes and the contracts and everything executed, so that should be fully expended this fiscal year for $26,000. Salt shed repairs of $20,000. He hasn't started that project yet, but he's anticipating starting shortly. That was appropriated in May of 2013. For this fiscal year, there's the $15,000 for the major equipment and repairs. There's a dump truck replacement at $65,000, and that's also going to be expended in the next few weeks. A mower at $25,000. Infield groomer at $21,000, which we just purchased, and he's just getting the setup done on that. The asphalt roller at $35,000. There's an old fuel station repair account from fiscal 2006 for $22,000. There's a small balance of under $400. We're going through a major, look at the fuel station system, and we're coordinating with the lead department on that project. So there'll be some major expense coming forward on that the lead department has agreed to assist us with. But we'll give you more information on that when we have.
But something like that, you can clean up your books.
Yeah. And the last one is the field and park maintenance appropriation that was done in fiscal 2008. That will be done this fiscal year with the conclusion of 300 King Street. So that actually helped the PNBC be able to award the contract to Onyx because it was really close, and Ginny was fine closing it out for that project. Cemetery. So they're all carry forward balances totaling $70,000. The cemetery expansion was appropriated in fiscal 2012 for $92,000. It's an ongoing process. It will take, probably another 2 years at least to close that project out. There's money spent in every fiscal year for the expansion. And then there's the building repairs account. There's $24,000 remaining from that. The roof project, to finish that project is coming up. And I know PNBC is working with the architect now to get it out. So hopefully that will be done this year. The library had a planning article for their new library or expansion library feasibility study for $20,000. I know that that's still in the planning phases, so I don't know if that will be expended this year or next. And there was an appropriation this fiscal year for furniture replacement of $5,000, and that's kind of an annual thing where they replace their old worn furniture. Recreation had a appropriation for Long Lake Security Systems at $6,700 in May of 2013. There's about $700 remaining from that. And the last one is the 300th celebration article that was given on November of 2013 for $50,000. Nothing's been expended from that as of today. That's a lot.
What happens with that one?
So basically,
Joe's gonna spend it.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, really now?
No, it's, there you go, we're doing pretty well, I think we're up to 90-something on the other count, but the parade itself is probably 72, 73.
Okay.
So I just want to comment, I've been asking for an update like this, and it's, great job. I mean, it shows you what this town and the people of the town spend a lot of money on, in their buildings, their equipment, and, it's good to see some things getting done.
So now that we have this information, what do we as a board do with it?
Just continue to monitor it and make sure that things get done. I
So
mean,
we monitor it, then what do we do?
as the old bills come up, we got to bring them forward to town meeting to put the money back into the general fund. So, for instance,
We don't necessarily have to. Typically, what I do is at the end of each fiscal year, I meet with the department heads to see what can be closed. And even just this past year, there were several articles that were closed out, even though they had balances, because the projects were done. So the departments, or like PNBC, will let me know that project's not done yet. And I'll keep it open. If it's appropriated at a town meeting for an article, it can carry forward without further action.
You're speaking to accounting practices. I'm asking, what is this board going to do with the information? In other words, we're asking her to perform work, and we ask her for a purpose. What's our purpose?
Our
Now that we know.
Our purpose is to ensure that the money that's been approved by annual and any special town meetings are being spent appropriately and within a reasonable amount of time.
then wouldn't it be the department head's responsibility
It
to brief us on
absolutely
that?
is, but for an update for this board, as the administrators, I feel that this is a necessary function for us.
You know, we're 7 weeks into a fiscal year.
Yep.
It's an unusual timing. There's
Well-
nothing wrong about it. It's just a very unusual timing. You know, when we start talking about fiscal reporting and the likes, usually 7 weeks into the fiscal year, there's not too many reports that are mandated by anything or even requested. All I'm asking, if we're going to ask our town employees to do work, is that we have a very specific purpose, and we're going to use the information to do something with it. Because, okay, we feel good now that we know this, and we can say that the town's been spending a lot of money, you know, the town people are really responsive in that. And that's all nice, feel-good stuff. But do we now call in a department head and say, can you explain why you haven't expended at a 25% rate at the end of a quarter or a 50% rate at the end of the half? Arbitrary questions there. I'm just asking, what do we plan to do going forward when we ask our town employees to do work for us?
Well, I think originally it was going to be 6 months into the fiscal year. You came a little early. I mean, originally, we had talked about during the budget process, going through the budget process, for an update 6 months into the fiscal year. Bonnie came early.
I agree with
7 weeks into it.
I agree with the update thing, but maybe, you know, we set a few parameters as a board, and if quarterly is always certainly a good one, and maybe we intersperse rather than right on the quarter of the date. So in other words, I got to do public math here now, October 1st, January 1st, April 1st, but maybe around there, bracketing, we actually have the department heads come in and tell us where they're at. Well, now we had serendipitously this evening, the two chiefs here, and you were able to ask them questions to get information, I think scheduled, so now this is coordinated with them so that they know the exact numbers that are going to be presented to the board, and they're able to respond, you know, with full information rather than just hitting them up just because they happen to be serendipitously in the audience.
I'm good with that.
So I'd ask we consider that, please.
Absolutely. I'm good with that.
Yeah, this was the first time that we've ever presented, I've been here 7 years, we've never presented a comprehensive update of the status of all the articles. During the budget process last year, we were tasked to update the board, so we're doing that, and as a first time out, frankly, we thought we'd just give you the list and see what further direction you want from that. So we can go over it in as
Everything
much,
about this is
as
good.
much detail as you,
Absolutely.
or as little.
And
as you
I
want.
love the idea about having the department heads come in once a quarter. I mean, you know, there are some times that we get to see the, you know, especially the chiefs, you know, we'd love to see the school department come in and say, hey, this is what's going on.
Try to speak to the chairman of the
You
school
know,
committee.
I understood. But, you know, and it's good for the people in town to know, hey, you know,
No, all good.
$6 million a year or $3 million a year is spent on capital equipment. What happens after that? After I say yes, what happens? So, I mean, I think that's a great idea to have some, maybe quarterly or biannually or whatever the board sees as fit.
Yeah, you used to have trouble getting the school committee chair to come in.
Oh, boy, was he a pain.
We could never get a word in edgewise.
Mr. Cole?
Can I interject a couple of thoughts here? May I?
I guess so.
The money that was spent at the fire department in the recent past, I think it was about $175,000 for renovations, which had to be done, no doubt, because of an increase in equipment and the size of the equipment. A considerable portion of that money is going to disappear when the new station is built. There's no getting around it. My question is, the $68,000 that at the time, I thought that was going to be part of those renovations for the exhaust system. Is it absolutely necessary to put that out to bid and get that done now when just down the road it may be of no value because that part of the station may be renovated and turned into something else? I mean, I realize, and the chief and I talk a lot, right? And I realize it's a very important system, the exhaust system. I quite honestly can't believe there's ever been one there. But to spend, you know, almost $70,000 to do it now, and then maybe have it go the same route as almost 100,000 that was spent in the recent past, just doesn't seem fiscally responsible to me. And if it can be held off and done when the new station is built, I just think it should be thought about. That's
We can
all.
certainly talk to the department head about that.
I'm sure.
It's already been put off for 2 years, and since there, you know, there's still issues behind the, you know, the full financing and the timeline, stuff like that for the fire station. The biggest issue is the exhaust that is still going into the buildings. It's going into the living facility, and now it's a 24-hour facility, so the fumes are just constantly coming into the building. So this is something that the union is pushing even stronger now that we're there 24 hours a day to get this system up, get the exhaust out of the building, and put it up. Part of that bid price, correct me if I'm wrong, Bonnie, but that may also include the removal and storage of that system. I know there was talk of it originally. I'm not sure if that's going out in the bid. But I know the companies that do install them do also offer storage. So if it's to be taken down and, you know, set aside for a year during the renovation, they have offered that. So, you know, of course at a price.
Safety is paramount in my eyes, so if it needs to be done, get it done.
Chief, you might as well come up too, because you're next on the fire station update. So.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
All right, hopefully we'll have
You get the presentation
something
too.
on the screen. Yeah. So we'll just do a basic recap over the whole project so far. 2013, February, we requested the feasibility study be done on the entire site. Fire station, the front building, the rear building, as well as the old police station. The Corel Group had their engineer come out, do their survey. That study was completed in May of 2013, where they, you know, determined that it was an inadequate facility for the 24-hour staffing for our current equipment, the size, the space, and, you know, basically just everything that goes on right there. Different things that you can see in the pictures, the inadequate space between the apparatus and the gear. Right now we have 2-3 feet. The code, today's code is 12. Between apparatus and between the space of the equipment and the gear, so that the members can safely get dressed and you know, prepare to go out on runs without being clipped by mirrors as apparatus are pulling out of the building. On the left, you can see the trailer. That's where we currently staff our around-the-clock coverage, because the current building does not you know, provide an adequate space for overnight staff. On the bottom is the rear garage, and you can see the current deterioration of that building. Even more so, in the next slide, it starts to just talk about different issues that we're facing. And the biggest thing in that rear garage is its roof. That needed to be replaced 3 years ago. Knock on wood, it's not leaking yet. It's the original 1979 roof, and we're on borrowed time. Every storm that goes by, there are more and more shingles on the ground. PMBC has had multiple vendors come out and look at it and give estimates. So we're at a time frame now where if we can get one of those vendors in to do a temporary fix just to get us another 2-3 years, you know, that's what would be ideal. Additionally, out behind the building, we have additional response trailers. There's 3 trailers out there, and unfortunately, one of them is the MRC trailer, where just the simple water collection on the trailer has penetrated through the seams in the roof, and we lost a significant amount of equipment inside that trailer just this past spring. Currently, there's a cleanup company working on preserving some of the stuff, but we're unsure on the final determination of the trailer. I believe it's going to be totaled. because of the amount of mold that's growing inside of it. The modular building is fair at best in the extreme weather. Day to day, it's great. We have 4 additional office space, office units out there, but in the winter, it's definitely has its challenges, but it works. Some of the other issues that we have is just simply dealing between the 2 stations. Going on calls, members go in the front station, they get dressed, and then they need to go into the back building. Whereas if it was all in that one single facility, you're going to save time, you're going to be able to have your gear on that piece of equipment and get dressed, and you can go out on the response. Right now, we split between the 2 buildings. We have motor vehicle incidents up front and structural stuff in the back. So that just adds a brief bit of delay. We just finished the discussion about the exhaust system. So that is funding that we do have in hand, and it's something that I feel that we should actually pursue and get installed. And unfortunately, we will have to pay that little extra cost, to have it removed, depending on the time frame of a new building. From June of 13 through May of 14, we had several open houses. Residents, abutters were invited. We had our open house in October, where we took all kinds of input on what the potential new station should look like. A lot of the input was for the building to actually match the neighborhood, or resemble some of the other structures that are on Foster Street, being a historic district, and not really stick out like a sore thumb, like a large commercial building. So we had several renditions through the Corral Group that helped us out on that feasibility study, and we're currently at the point now where we've tapped out our funds for that feasibility study, and we've actually come up with some pretty good renditions of that, which you'll see shortly. This past fall, meeting with the residents and the abutters, it was also asked, do they have to stay at 20 Foster Street? So we pulled up all of the available town-owned property to find that there was a lot of swamp property that we own. But the one that really stuck out was the Morgan property. There was a 2-acre area in one of the lower fields that would have just about met the same size site as our current site right now. The drawback to it was a little over an additional $1 million just for the road access to get up to it. So the board, with the additional cost, ruled that we would stay at our existing site at 20 Foster Street. So here are some of the renditions. By remaining at our current facility, we keep our old building, which is, say, on the top. You can see it in the middle. And then on the right side of it is, we would be going out into the side parking lot. It adds a nice meeting space. Currently, we have some space on the 2nd floor that is not handicapped accessible, and it doesn't fill our whole department. There's just not enough space to get the whole department into that room for the training. So a new facility, which cable LCTV has also told us that they have set aside money for that room as well, so that they could put up the monitors as well as cameras, so that they could broadcast live as well, just like in this room. As you look to the bottom left picture, it shows a 4-bay garage going off the rear of the fire station, as it is now. They're 20-foot wide bays, which is today's standard, and they're 100 feet deep, so there'd be 3 pieces of apparatus deep. Currently, we have outside, we have 3 utility vehicles, 3 trailers, and a bus that are all outside, because we don't have space to store them. Also in the bottom left picture, you'd see on the back, right in the front, is a 2-story training tower, where we would have the ability to keep our crews trained and proficient in the newest standards inside there, as well as on top of the roof of the carport in the rear. And that carport in the rear would also be used to put our trailers underneath to keep them out of the weather, to keep them protected, dry, trying to make our equipment last as long as possible. And here's the overall site. That would be with the proposed addition off the back of the building. If you look closely, you can see the dotted, two dotted squares, one directly behind the building. That's where the current rear station sits. And then to the right in the parking spaces is where the current old police station sits. One of the transitions you'll see in the front or the bottom of the picture is where we create a little more green space running parallel to Wilderness Road, and by eliminating some of the existing parking lot. And by doing this, we move the parking lot to the back, basically almost doubling the current space. We currently have 20 spaces. That would go bump it up to 37. So in the overall review of that, you can see the footprint of the old police station. And it would be the intent, at least if we were to use this model, to have both of those buildings removed so that we can have the best use of the site. And by obtaining that amount of parking, it would give us the ability to have most of the membership to park on site for training, in addition to having some space for people to use the conservation land or Fay Park. That would also still utilize some of the existing parking on the left side of the building. One of the other issues with that is the traffic around the building would be changed to one way going in on the left and out onto Wilderness Road back out, just for ease of traffic concerns. And it also gives us a little bit more green space, which the neighbors, that was one of the largest issues, was to try to break up the views so that as everyone's going by, they're not just looking at the building in a big parking lot. They can have the trees and shrubbery, stuff like that, to kind of break it up a little bit. So this is the floor plan. It's a little bit small but there's the first floor area where the current garage on the left, we would keep part of the front bays. And the rear half of the garage would become office space. Directly behind the existing fire station, there would be another addition where there would be a few more offices, some more space added for EMS, decon, an appropriate space for turnout gear to be hung and ventilated to dry after they're out on runs, appropriate places to dress, storage. And then the bays all the way out to the back, there's a couple more rooms on the picture on the left side of the screen, where there would be a workshop and some additional storage. On the plan on the right is the second floor. The second floor would be living quarters. There would be 6 bunk rooms across the front, a kitchen area, a gym facility, a large storage area that's accessible from the apparatus floor. So on to the next slide. Some of the additional costs as we go through. The main building would be a steel building. That allows us to save some cost by using a pre-engineered steel building. And then some other hazmat remediation, some other costs that are built into it, depending on what they find on the site as they begin the construction. And on to the next one. A few more things that, for furnishings, there are some radio things in there, depending on if you need to adjust for a dispatch center. And by allowing us to have a backup to the main dispatch center, if, God forbid, if something happened on the highway and we had to evacuate that area down there, that at least be able to transfer up to there as a backup. SCBA equipment, all the design of the main facility, all in all totaling $6.6 million. And again, these numbers were for last year. So they are estimating that they're bumping up as construction costs are rising significantly each year. So a few things that we have to deal with is the old police station. whether or not it stays or goes to, have the best use of the lot. Honestly, I think that's what we're trying to achieve. Timeline, our borrowing for design, our basic time frame. If, I know the board at one point did pull back their decision of keeping the project under the levy. I know the board needs to have their discussion and talk about how to finance and take it from there and see if that fits in within the timeline. But that's discussions that the town needs to make.
One that comes up immediately, and probably one that you don't want to hear, but if the town or the board decided that we have a decent use for the police station, can you take that, judging by the drawing you have there, it's looks like something could be done so the building actually could stay. I know it's not what you want, but has the architect drawn anything up that would show that how something might fit around that?
So currently, the way we got to that design, 3 previous designs, the building was actually 2 bays further back. So we were able to shrink the building and make the bays deeper to gain more parking space out back. That was one of the main issues, was the lack of parking on site. So that, in adjusting that, by bringing the building down and making it deeper, gives us a little bit better of a use of that space in allowing us to have the parking. From the front of the bays towards Fay Park, there's enough space to pull, say, the ladder truck out and still keep Wilderness Road open. So that would give us enough space to pull the apparatus out, do our daily checks, and have some training space as well. That's, we're a little bit tapped for our site usage there. That's our best use at this time with the initial drawings that we used. We did look at some other plans of going up the back side of the lot and then doing it diagonal across. But that also added significant cost for the steel and changing angles, is how it was presented back to us. But over the several renditions, that was the one that best met our needs to this point.
Oh, I understand that. I'm just wondering if it happened, would they be able to design some kind of possibility leaving it there? And I mean, obviously, judging by the building that's there right now, it probably could fit. And I understand where we are coming from.
No,
for all reasons that you would want, it would seem, as far as the fire department goes, to be the perfect choice. I'm just saying.
Yep.
I don't know whether we should encourage to also have an alternative design in case the town chose to use that building.
I guess, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
being involved in and going to those public outreach meetings and talking to the residents, not only in Foster but around town, the number one thing I think, besides the look of the building, was fitting in the community was parking. Where the church uses it, how is that going to impact Fay Park? And, for the whole use of Fay Park was a theme that was a concern to all the residents. So I think with that being said, and the chief doing his due diligence to create more, almost doubling the size of the parking there is significant. And I found I really didn't have everybody thinks that building's being torn down, everybody that I talked to, so.
One of the issues, just by counting the spaces, if we use that plan and leaving the existing police station there, we'd lose 1/3 of the parking. You'd lose a dozen spaces. And that doesn't even allow enough space parking on the property for our own membership to come to training sessions.
The decision may have been trumped, but during the building of the police department, it was looked at actually tearing that down using funds through that contract, and we just weren't able to do that. So it became just a source of funding as to the reason PMBC didn't pursue tearing it down at that time. So 4 years ago now, Chief?
Since we moved out, yeah.
Yeah. How's the building been taken care of in these 4 years? So there's many, many questions. Perhaps we ask the PMBC to give us a little bit of a study as to the feasibility of even keeping the building for anything. Is it merely just a rat trap at this point?
They've
Or
done
do we
that.
think we'd want to put people
Yeah,
in?
they did report back to us, I remember
They've
Jeff
done.
Ian.
But how far back?
Chair, well, last summer, or last year, it was.
It was covered in the
it was a year
feasibility
ago.
study.
Yeah, and said that, well, I'm sure Bill, as a member of PMBC, remembers exactly what they said.
Well, we were asked to look at the building and see if it was structurally sound. And at a very minimal cost of less than $6,000, Jeff Fee and I and Jim Carr coordinated with the prison system to have it gutted. And it was found to have no mold or mildew, and it's 2x6 exterior construction, so it is structurally sound. I mentioned recently that if 1/3 of that building, the third closest to the rear of the lot, could be turned into a warehouse, basically, for park and rec, and also a garage where they could park their pickup truck, and at the same time put in a set of handicap bathrooms that people at Fay Park could use. That could be done at a very minimal cost, I would guess, probably less than $80,000. And it wouldn't require any heat except for the bathrooms. Everybody knows that Fay Park needs some public toilets. And I think that if the architect that was designing the fire station were to look at that, he could probably find a way to make up the loss of, if the entire building would take 10 spaces, you'd probably end up losing 5 if that portion of the building was utilized. And I quite honestly think it's a win situation for a lot of people. Park and Rec definitely needs the storage. They have a storage closet here in the building that could be used by COA if they get that space. And that would take all the stuff that is starting to accumulate in the multipurpose room from people that use that room. I just hate to see the building get totally torn down. It's only 35 or 40 years old. And, I mean, there are towns around us whose town hall was built in the 1700s. And yeah, I have really been pushing to use part of that building at the very least because of its location, the need for the bathrooms, and the need for the storage.
I guess what we asked for
And I
is a
would love
coordinated
to see a
position
compromise
from the
made.
various, hold on a second. We asked for a coordinated position from the various people that Bill is mentioning, so that it gets put together with this, rather than ad hoc discussions here at Board of Select meeting as to whether it might be usable or not, is let's just get, the right people put together and, come with a coordinated position. Because this has been on the table for a long time.
Yeah.
And the briefing site itself has been around a little while too, to raise or not to raise. And we're still at this, I think, stage.
One of the
Why
other
don't we just
things-
why don't we just put a stake in the ground and get the right people that may have an opportunity to use it or desire to use it, and work with the PBMC and say, this is the plan, and then coordinate it with the chief's position and the architect.
Could I please say that I am speaking right now as a citizen, taxpayer, not as a member of the PMBC. The only part of everything I had to say that related to the PMBC was the fact that we were asked to look at the building and see if it was structurally sound.
I guess the thing is that something we desire to do?
Well, rather than
Make
leave
a
it hanging
decision.
forever,
Yeah.
rather than leave it hanging forever,
And it
it's
has
official
been,
cut date.
it's been hanging for a long time. And
One thing I could add in regards to the public restrooms, the fire department has always had open space for public restrooms. Every time there's a function in the park, the building, the facilities are used. The only thing that hampers it right now is there's no handicapped access, which there will be in the new facility. And in the new facility, with the design of it, it'll have 24-hour access through the front of the building, including the restrooms, that would still also remain in full use for the public, just like they are today.
That's the biggest concern I had. And that's taken care of. But to your point, PJ, I guess the only people we really haven't heard from was Park and Rec, really, in Bill's discussion, but.
But
you know,
let's
I
pin the
think
rose
this
on
board-
someone to put it all together and get that coordinator position.
I think you're looking at him.
Is it the PBMC?
Or-
PBMC, excuse me?
Or the
Or
fire chief?
It's the use of a building
Unless you
that is
want a
not.
neutral party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the use of a building that's not the fire department's building.
Trying to help you out there.
Yeah, I think a more appropriate agency or
PMBC.
organization is the PBMC,
Sure.
PMBC, excuse me.
Have them do it again? They've
No,
already
not
done
as
it once.
a study, but get a coordinated position of all the possible users in town and present it.
Yeah, because that level is something they specifically did not do, and that I would say declined to do. The board asked for them to make a judgment about the building, the structural condition of the building, and not about its reuse, which the PMBC, if I recall, said is the selectmen's decision, but you can certainly refer to them for their recommendation.
That's it, decision,
Yeah.
recommendation, you shack the target there.
I mean, personally, you know, based on what I've seen and heard, you know, I would say let's move forward with the drawings and the plans that the chief had. I would have no issue saying to remove the building. That's my personal feeling,
Yeah, I'd be on the board.
To do
as
what,
well.
Jim?
to remove the building.
I mean, it just looks like it's gonna be so nice at the end, and I don't know enough about the building needs, which I think is something we have to address, but to make that just a real nice with the extra parking, like you said, I think it makes sense.
I mean, that's a great point about the public bathrooms, but hearing that issue being resolved,
Yeah.
But at Bill's point, oh, excuse me.
Is the front door, Sunday afternoon, something's going on at Fay Park, is that front door open that people could actually walk in and use those public bathrooms, or will it be locked?
Not right now. Right now, they ring the doorbell, they ring it all day long. But with the new design, yes, it will be unlocked. There will be a safe, like a safe area. They'll be able to walk in. There's a phone, they'll be able to pick up a phone with a ring down to anywhere in the station. So they would be able to come in, be out of the weather.
But the
and-
rest of the-
and be and secured, not with
It's-
no access to the rest of the facility.
All right, then maybe we should make that choice to move on.
Bill's point, you said the front third of the building, so is your thought the rear two-thirds are demolished?
Yeah, basically what I was saying would leave 1,700 square feet.
Because at least looking at the site plan that you have here,
Building, I believe,
He said the
is
rear.
about 3,700 square feet now.
oh, my bad, did you say preserve the rear or the front?
The rear, the
Okay.
back, to the furthest
My
rear
apologies.
part of the lot.
On regard all previous.
So, do you want to, are you looking for a decision tonight? You want us to take a vote on the building? I mean, is that what you're looking for, chief?
I would accept any decisions that anybody would like to make on this project
So-
from any time on.
You wanted to go through the raising of the building in the old police
Go ahead.
station in the plan.
The question I have, if I look at that drawing, I don't know whether you can put it back up on the screen or not. If in the future, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 parking places in the very, very back of that parking lot, if Park and Rec needed that small space and a small building could be constructed at that point. And I'm talking,
Yep.
I'm talking way back.
In the way back?
In the way back.
So, something that I would, this is me personally talking here, in regards to that space and the limited amount of parking that there is right there for the fire station use, as well as the conservation land and Fay Park, I don't understand why you may not want to even consider the back parking lot here over behind the tennis courts, where there's constantly an open space, whereas something that is continuously full.
Good point.
Point well made.
Yeah.
You had chocolate enough for him.
Not only that, but we have a huge project going. You have a huge project going on right now with 300 King. I mean, is there any way we can incorporate their needs into 300 King project? Chief?
And I hesitate to do this, but, you know, certainly for, if I don't know what just a steel storage building would cost to put up, but obviously you actually do have a large open space out behind my building for, you know, it's not something that's gonna be accessed 24/7. It's strictly a place to park their truck and park their equipment. Obviously, I have a large open space out behind my building that could also be used for a steel storage building of some kind or something like that. So there is, you know, I think there are some spaces around there, you know, for the facility they're trying to use it for.
We just talked about a pole barn down the highway department. You know, making an extra 20 feet long, and you got room for whatever they need down there too. All right, that being said, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'd make a motion, see how it flies for that particular property.
If you'd like to, we'll see how it flies.
Okay. I'd move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the demolition of the existing structure that is known as the old police station at the 20 Foster Street site be demolished.
Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded that the old police station be raised, taken down. Any further discussion by this board?
I think it's premature to take a vote this evening. We're looking at a timeline of May 16 to even look at project costs, the design costs for the project. It's almost 2 years from now before we can get to that. I think we're acting a little bit hastily this evening to say tear down the building, where there's certainly been enough back and forth, and I'd say we should get it written down, codified, and coordinated for the various agencies that want to use the building or think the building is excess, should be demolished. And frankly, that's where I lean personally. I do lean towards demolishing the building. But to make the decision this evening, I think is premature, absent some of that, as I say, coordinated position.
Well, it's been going on for 3 years now.
But we haven't gone out to the right people and said, put this
We're
down.
the right people are the townspeople. You know, I think that they have made their, to me anyways, they've made their opinion and voice loud and clear. And the only variable to that was tonight to hear to make a storage shed. That's the first I've heard of that. I've not heard of that for the past 3 years. I don't know if any other board member has, but I had not heard of anything to that nature, so. I'm not saying do it tomorrow, but at least the chief now has direction from this board as to, you know, what direction, we're giving him a little insight as to what direction we'd like him to move, along with his timeline. I mean, you know, we can have a discussion about his timeline and say yes or no about his timeline, too.
Well, I think we're all leaning in the same direction, that it probably should come down, but I'm leaning to what Paul just said, even if we open it up for another month, in case someone wants to come in and say, you know, I do have this use and we can study it. Just put it off one more month. I mean, I don't want to put it off much longer.
No, and I agree with you. In fact, I was only going to say 2 weeks, you know, to the next meeting.
Right,
September
we have
8th.
Park and Rec coming in at one of our meetings in September already. It's either the 8th or the 22nd, I'll have to double check, but they are coming back in September.
And here's what I ask, and not that Kate happens to be here and we ask her thoughts that evening, is but between now and our next meeting or month, whatever we think is appropriate, is any town department that thinks they could possibly have use for it, justify that use, and some of it's going to be back of the envelope sort of calculations as to, you know, Bill, like maybe for $80,000 we could do something. So we don't need to spend a whole bunch of money to come up with, you know, really getting down to the nitty-gritty on exact dollars. But some costs that may be associated with it. As I say, I mean, I'm leaning towards demolition. 4 or 5 years ago when I was on the PMBC, you know, is my vote, let's get rid of the building. So I'm not going against what you're thinking, but I'd like to just, you know, codified that everybody's in town, so it's not like I could have had a V8.
If it took 3 years, I guess 2 weeks won't make a difference, but if we can make a decision. The chief is looking for some direction from us, and I don't blame him for being here, so 2 weeks, I have no problem.
And at this point, all you're doing really is making a design decision because there's no funding for.
Right.
for
That's-
demolition.
But at least he has, you know.
So he
take
can
that-
incorporate the
take that
plans.
off.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about it, doesn't have to worry about the Morgan property anymore. He's moving forward.
And tonight, the chief was here to give us an update, not for us to give a decision.
The question was asked if he wanted it, and that's, you know, I understand where he's coming from. And he does. And he does.
So would you rescind that motion?
I will rescind the motion until our meeting of the 18th, the 8th, September the 8th?
I've got to double check when Park and Rec's
I'm-
coming back. It is September.
Well, no, it'll be our next meeting, whether it be 2 weeks. If Park and Rec has an issue, they can get it to
Yeah.
the chief, PMBC, and they can bring it forward for that.
Any department.
Any department.
Yeah,
There you
so
go. Any
invite department input for September 8th.
There you go.
And we're all set to go.
Yeah, and then, I mean, the beauty of it is, it's something that's documented, and so come whatever town meeting we may do this, in November of 16 or March or May of 17, we're talking about voting the $6 million, we can very clearly say, on such date, Board of Selectmen, voted to raise the building, or build the Taj Mahal there.
Tonight or 2 weeks, it's okay. Thank you, chief.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, before, I think one thing that we do need to have a little bit more discussion about is the roof on the rear garage. That is definitely an issue that I would hate to wait the 2 or 3 years for. I'd love to wait and save that money, but I think it's.
We don't have a choice, right?
It's an awful big gamble. The water is not leaking through yet. It's just a matter of time. There are a lot of shingles on the ground. They're curling. Or what, was it last year, 2 years ago? That we had $45,000 set aside for when the prisoners were going to redo the roof. And when they arrived to do it, it was determined that the roof was too steep, so they weren't able to do it. And so, I mean, that was 3 years, two or 3 years ago. And so the funding, unfortunately, was shifted from 45 down to 16, but without the roof
Can they
being
take
able
the
to be
shingles
done.
off like the exhaust system and store them somewhere afterwards, chief?
They're on the ground, you can sweep them up.
Your building was not in the capital assessment, was it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's why we didn't consider.
But I know Bill has, you've gotten some prices, correct, on
Yeah, I got a
some
price from a
temporary
guy
repairs?
back in May who said he'd hold it until July or August, and it's only $6,780. Basically, it's a Band-Aid. They're gonna put a rubber roof over it.
Nice and easy.
That's it.
I was gonna say blue top, rubber roof. is
Well,
just
I
as
mean,
good.
it's a
Nothing
Band-Aid. Nobody
pretty.
cares how pretty it is.
Exactly.
Go forth
Yep.
before the rainy season.
Go ahead.
I'll get it done.
I've just been waiting to find out so I could call the guy.
Sure. You got 16 grand sitting there, so.
Drop the dime.
Keith,
Very good.
when do we discuss the financing? After we get that done too?
We can, well, I thought that it was one of the things tasked to the fiscal policy group.
Not specifically in regards to the fire station, we were looking at all the policies in regards to any type of financing for any
And you could do it
project.
whenever you like. I mean,
So,
the board's vote in January was to schedule a decision for March, and you didn't make one, and you tabled it until after the elections, so it's,
What I would like to
Past
suggest,
elections.
Mr. Chair, is maybe sit down with the finance committee and the finance team to see if we can move forward with the design and to talk about funding of the station itself, once we have a design and bid documents.
Right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Special town meeting, another one?
Time for a special town meeting. This agenda item won't take long, just, there's two votes that I'm going to ask for tonight. One is to call a special town meeting, That's in item 7B1. And second, in item 7B2, is to schedule hearing on layouts of New Estate Road and Agog Hill Road, which will end up being town meeting articles. What I've also done, just so you'll get a flavor of what we're looking at, is to provide a draft warrant with some articles that we are, that staff is looking at. You will have the opportunity at your meetings on September 8th and September 22nd to actually vote to insert articles. Typically, on the first time out, you look at, you review the draft warrant to see what we're working on. If there are things that you have in mind that maybe are not on this list that we should be looking at, we can take that direction. We will have, in some cases, we will have further information on some of these proposed articles for future meetings on the 8th and the 22nd. There are specifically some proposals that the Council on Aging and Elder and Human Services are working on. We'd like to actually bring them in to explain those to you in further detail. Some of them are sort of have financial impacts. We've talked about some of the financial ones already, like the revolving fund amendments to fund the dog enforcement agreement with Boxborough. Just recently, there have been some discussions among proponents of the turf fields to access, and they've had discussions with the planning board, to try to access some of that $100,000 that the planning board had set aside for active recreation, and planning board seems supportive of using that money. They also are supportive of the idea of planning board is actually taking the $100,000, putting it in this community preservation fund first in one article, and then that gets us matching funds of $25,000, $35,000 just by doing that, and then take out whatever is needed in the next article.
Well, can we designate that 100,000 for active recreation within the buckets of the community preservation?
Yes,
So,
yep, that you can
just
vote
leave
to
it
say
there?
the 100,000 goes to active recreation in one article, and then
just-
in the next article, you could vote to take out
The 55,000.
the 55,000 for the turf feasibility
But
study.
there's just another level of bureaucracy as far as approvals to go through the CPC committee?
Yeah, in
to
order to
get
take it
approval.
out, you need CPC approval, so
Right.
we'll brief them, and
Okay.
and essentially, the discussion would be if you would like the 100,000 to go into CPA fund, we need to know that it's going to come out for this
Right.
purpose.
So I would say
We'll
it's a
work on
great
those.
idea, an extra $25,000, $30,000 in the coffers, but, that extra level of bureaucratic red tape that has to be dealt with.
Yeah, we want to make sure we can deliver, we need to make sure that the Community Preservation Committee is part of that game plan, and that,
Decision.
we've identified before
Correct.
that we need to include them and be reaching out to them with all of our long-term
That's a great
financial
idea, I
planning.
think.
So that's one. I had mentioned briefly that before that the Elder and Human Services was looking for some funding to do a needs assessment. We don't have the number yet, but we'll have Pamela Campbell in at our next meeting or the following one with all of her proposed articles. We've discussed before, but we have made no drawn no conclusions about whether to have a FinCom member on the Community Preservation Committee. We might want to discuss that. The board has already voted to put an article in to establish eligibility requirements or a residency requirement for FinCom members. So that article's in. If you wanted to expand that to other town boards, we can have a further discussion about that as well.
Just to
in a
touch on
separate
that.
article.
We never had Mr. Hinckley come before us to even talk to us about anything, so.
Yeah, he couldn't make that meeting.
Couldn't make
Yeah.
that night, and we haven't rescheduled him
Yeah,
yet
we
to have him
should-
come
we
in
should
and talk about
probably
his
do that.
status. So we can follow that up.
Yeah.
I just put in some placeholder language of what would a town board residency requirement look like if we had one. Then there's the article that I'll ask you to put in regarding the acceptance of layouts of New Estate Road and Nagog Hill Road as public ways. And then something that we're discussing at the staff level, may bring forward a proposal, is we're looking at our membership in the Montechusett Regional Transit Authority, and frankly, we're exploring whether it may make more sense for us to link up with Lowell rather than Montechusett. I've met with my counterpart in Boxborough to talk about it. I think we need to have a feasibility study done on what would be involved in moving out of Mart into Lowell. Our Crosstown Connect neighbors, most of them are in Lowell. Westford is, Acton is. We're looking at dealing with a regional transit authority to provide expanded shuttle service, and I think it may be well for us to to shop around and see what we can get from Lowell that we may not be able to get from Mart.
I didn't know that we had that choice. I thought those boundaries were already preset, and we had no choice but had to be in the Montechusett.
No, but it is, the way the law is written, though, it only takes a vote of the Board of Selectmen to join a regional transit authority. It takes a ballot question to leave one. And the ballot question starts with a town meeting article and a ballot question. I will say, though, that's the way the current law reads, that there have been exceptions. For example, when the Metro West Regional Transit Authority was set up several years ago, that was a special act, that was a general law, and the legislators worked with those communities and just changed the state law without requiring you to go through a process. It's on the radar screen. I'm not looking for a policy decision now. We really need to have some further discussions about it. But it's on the radar screen of things that we want to look at. What's the question for Littleton is, what's the best way for us to position ourselves to get expanded transportation services? And I personally have enough concerns about the operations and the financing of Mart that I think it behooves us to have a discussion about what would life in a different RTA look like. But we'll have plenty of additional information on that. So the suggestions tonight are, one, to call a special town meeting. That's the first motion on 7B1. And then secondly, to take the action to insert an article regarding the road acceptances and to schedule the required public hearing on the layout. That's all we need tonight.
Yep. Okay. Ready? I'm all set.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, subsection 10, to call a special town meeting for Wednesday, November 12, 2014, at 7 p.m. in the Charles Forbes K Gymnasium, Littleton Middle School, 55 Russell Street, with the warrant therefore to open forthwith and close on Friday, September 26, 2016, 2015. 2014.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
2014.
No, 2014.
2014 at noon. I'm thinking fiscal year when I said 15.
No, that's just a typo altogether.
Let's be moving in second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And then in 7B2.
Nagog Hill and Road, New Estate Road. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to insert an article on the warrant for the November 12, 2014 special town meeting, subject to the approval as to form by town council to accept New Estate Road, Nagog Hill Road as public ways, and further to vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 82, to schedule a public hearings on proposed layout of said ways for Monday, September 22nd, 2014, at 8 p.m., and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, subsection 81L, to refer these proposed actions to the planning board for its report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Everybody all set?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, everyone, for watching. Don't forget about the 300th festivities coming up.
I just need you guys to see.